Right. We are live. Little bit of late stuff going on. I actually have a leak in the pipe in the kitchen, so that's fun.
Oh, geez.
And then on top of that, we were talking about spilling the tea. I literally spilled my tea.
What in the world?
Like I literally have tea everywhere, and I'm just like, I'm gonna have to clean it up after. But hi, my name is Dr. Charna
Hi.
Wolverton. This is Charlene, and this is
Hello.
a first for her and I to do this together. But we're going to do some Q&A because she had some questions with me yesterday, and we have these like really fun conversations probably every once a month or so. And we thought, you know what, these should be recorded because inquiring minds, I don't know, you explain.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like you said, like we always have these conversations that last for hours. I think one of ours was like 3.5 hours. And because we always end up getting on these like really like deep conversations and questions, and I always have questions, and I was like, yeah, people, I need to start sitting straight. I know people will have more questions. People probably, if I think that way, then other people will think that way. And so that's why we want to do this, so that way people can come on and ask questions too, or they can hear kind of like, maybe they're thinking, yeah, they don't want to ask the question. They don't feel comfortable with it. But I am all about asking the questions, and even if it's uncomfortable. So yeah. Because yesterday we were talking about, we got in the conversation because I said, oh, you should go live talking about this certain subject. And it was about Kim Clement. And I said, oh yeah, when he talks about the hypnotic November. And I said, and it sounds silly now, but I was like, can God hypnotize everyone? Is that what's happening? And you're like, I love you, but no. And then I wanted to know why. And then you explained it. And I was like, oh yeah, you should go live and like talk about this kind of stuff. And because if I'm curious, something might be.
So where did you hear about the hypnotic? Tell me. So
on his, well, you can go on his website, but his daughter posted on TikTok. And so when they go and they post his words or whatever, you can listen to that one. And he talks about the summer. He says the summer will take it, and then they'll fall in the fall, and then hypnotic November. And then my mom was reading it, the whole website yesterday, like the whole word, and it's a lot more detail than I remember. So it's kind of like in resemblance to what is actually happening right now, where people are like, we don't know if it's the people that are for the other side, the ones that are, that voted for Scalar, or like if they're in this moment, because I mean, they're acting kind of cray-cray right now, but they're all hurting, if that's the nice word to say it. I don't know. So yeah, that's where you can, long story short, that's where you can find it, is on TikTok. She's posting on TikTok all the time. She posts her dad's stuff. So, and I know you worked with him, right? Or you?
I trained underneath him. I went to his prophetic school. It was literally one of the first schools that I trained with. I mean, I worked for John Paul Jackson, and I trained with him as well. But I went to his school with Graham Cook, which both of them are freaking brilliant. And then I would go to his meetings constantly just because he's amazing. And every single time I went, I got called out. And every single time he had like very specific details about my family, about my miscarriage, about my daughter that would come after that. I mean, there was just, he was always, and then one time he had me come up, and after he said whatever he said, I went to like go sit back down, and he was like, no, stay up here. And so I thought he was going to say more, but then he would just talk to all the people. And so when he kind of like wasn't talking to me, and I was just standing up there like, oh, like, why am I here? I thought, well, maybe I'll let him do his thing. I didn't want to take away from what he was doing. So I went to like sneak off again. He's like, no, stay here. And then he had me even like walk around with him while he would go to different people and stuff. And then I was like, okay, bye. I'm going to go sit down now. And then we went back. But then he was like, no, stay here. And we go up on the stage, and like he basically just led me around. And then he never even got back to me. I think he finally did come around to saying some things. And so I was like literally with him for a long, long time. And I was just like, what is that all about? And then later someone was telling me like somehow that there would be like maybe some transfer or whatever. But after I know exactly where I was when he passed. I was standing in line at the Disney elevator. What's that thing that drops? Like 12.
Oh, the ride that drops.
Yeah, one of the rides that drops like 13 stories. It's like that elevator. If anyone knows the name of it, tell me.
Tower of Terror?
What's that?
Tower of Terror?
Tower of Terror. I was literally in line at that when I got the call.
Oh, jeez.
And I was just like, oh my God, no. I mean, I could barely stand up. And
like a gut punch.
Yeah, I was with all my kids and my husband, and ended up going on the ride anyway, which was also triggering because I was just shaking uncontrollably. It was very upsetting. Man. But later, after he passed, I had a dream that he came to me. I was at his house. It was a 2-story white house, and there were all kinds of different races and genders there. Like every color of the rainbow was there. And he was just showing me room to room to room, and he was playing piano and different things. And then later he asked me if I wanted his house. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't be able to afford this house.
Whoa.
And he was like, well, what happens if I give it to you for the price that you bought yours? And I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that. Or it was something along the lines where it was like, seriously? And then he was like, there's only one catch. He's like, all the people in here and everything that I am comes with that. And I was like, oh. And so it was like, to me, again, I do dream interpretation. I have a lot of friends who do it. And it was some sort of transfer in my mind. It was like how that looks or what happens from there. You know, that was a few years ago. And it was weird because I was driving down this neighborhood one day and I saw a house. I was like, oh, that looks, and there's a swimming pool in the back, and there was like people were having fun and partying, and there was a house that looked just like that. And so every now and then I'll pass by that house and I'll remember, oh yeah, I wonder what I'm supposed to be doing, or like what that transfer is, or, you know. But I got the word about Trump about 3 months before Kim did. And I didn't tell Kim anything. It's not like we called each other and had each other's phone numbers, or, you know.
Right.
And then he came out with the word, and then so did Chuck, that one that you were talking, and there were several others after. And I was just like, oh, you know, I had announced it at a few of my conferences about the dream that I had, and about the trumpet and the 45 and the Isaiah and all of that. And I was just like, who knows? But if I can live like even like 1% of who he is, then I would be like the happiest chick ever, because he is just like, he's like an amazing person.
I actually didn't even know about him until, sadly, and like I didn't know about him until, I don't even know, maybe when Trump first ran in 2016. So, and that's funny because like I was at Bethel at that time too. When 2007 is when he gave the word, and I was already at Bethel and working there and doing the whole thing. And so, or maybe I did meet him. I don't remember. I do remember Bob Jones, John Paul Jackson. Like I remember all those people, and when they would come and they would do their things. I remember Bob put a finger in my palm of my hand and looked at me straight in the eye and didn't say a word. And I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Which finger was it?
He did the pointer finger and then put it at the palm.
That's a prophet finger.
Really?
Yeah. So it's prophet. So apostle, like holds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Prophet, and then middle finger is evangelist. It goes further out, like more of someone with a worldwide, you know, and it's a different call. And then the pastor close to the heart, because the meridian goes straight to the heart. And then this is the pinky finger, having to do with teaching, getting into the ear of people.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have this in my Sears handbook.
You have a Sears handbook?
I have a Sears handbook. I wrote a Sears handbook years ago.
I need to get these in my life because I need to educate myself more, because I never understood why he just put his foot right in, and he just looked right in my eyes, didn't say one thing to me. He just stared right at me, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I walked off, and I felt like I kind of blacked out because I felt like something else happened, but I couldn't remember. And people were like, "What did he say? What did he say?" And I was like,
nothing.
Nothing. Like, I don't even.
It was very specific.
Yeah, and that's interesting, the whole prophet thing. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole other. I mean, that could be another conversation another day. But
one day I'll tell you how I met Bob. Or we can talk about it now if you want. I don't know what all you have to question.
Talk about it now. I'm about everything. So, like, I was going to ask you, I had this crazy, because you mentioned dream interpretation. This is creepy. So I had this in last night's dream. I was going like this to my arms, and I was like rubbing them like this. And I was like, oh man, it hurts. And then it felt like something was pulling, you know? And then I looked, and like right here where my veins are, I saw like a black parasite go in and out into to this arm. And then I was telling my mom, I said, Mom, I said, something's pulling in my arm. And I said, watch. And I did this again. I like rubbed my arms like this. And then she looked, and you can see that there was a black like worm thingy or whatever. And my mom just like instantly, mom instincts, you know, she kicked in the dream, and she like grabbed it, and she started pulling it out. And it was this big, big worm. And it was weird. I can actually feel it. And it ended with my knee. Like I can feel it. The root or whatever was in this knee. And then I woke up because it was so painful. Not crazy. I was like, Charnel's gonna want to hear this. I was like, there's
talks. Sounds like some parasitical things that have kept you. So arms have to do with handling things, or being able to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And something's breaking off. Your mom's helping you. I know she's staying with you guys, and that's such a
so
lucky to have family.
Been a lot of inner healing since she's been here. A lot of childhood stuff, but we can talk about it another time. That's personal stuff. But yeah, so it was crazy. But what was it? We were talking about the Kim Clement and the hypnotizing, the hypnotic.
Okay, yeah. Okay, my bad. Thank you for helping me.
Yeah, no worries.
That I'm gonna pull a Trump thing about the weave. Do you know what I'm talking about? The weave. A few of his interviews, he would like, get a question, and then he would say a bunch of things, and then he would weave back into it. And then they asked him, "What is that?" And he was like, "It's called the weave. I weave into
the weave."
So the hypnotic thing. So here's my thing. The will of the people cannot be overridden. So we have that thing that Source gives us called free will, and free will is actually on a frequency scale 400,000 times stronger than spirit, which spirit is super strong and powerful and authentic and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And also we can override it. So, I mean, even leading up to the day of the election, I had a person call me. I'm not going to say who it is. Mm-hmm. They were like, "Are you okay?" Because I guess I was antsy or a little stressed. Uh-huh. And I was like, "Do you understand what's riding on this day? Like, it's kind of a big day, you know, mm-hmm. We're kind of dealing with a lot here." And I'm antsy. And they were like, "Well, the way I look at it, it's in God's hands. And no matter what happens, God is, in control." And I said, "Well, and I don't agree with you at all. And that's okay. We have difference of agreements. Yes, God is in everything. God is in us. God is in all the things. And also we have the free will power of doing whatever. We are God in action if we choose and when we choose, and when we're not, then we're not. And so, and I made the analogy to this person. I said, if I jump off a cliff, I'm not going to go midway down the hill or the mountain and be like, oh God, save me from my dumbass mistake. Like, it's not the way it works. There's cause and effect. So yes, Bob would always say, when people would say, who's going to win the election? And he would have dreams about different people winning. And he would say, well, the will of God is this person, but it's to be determined because it's by the will of the people who are voting, and also the will of the people who are cheating, which, not that they won't have karma for the cheat, and we know that 20 million votes were missing from the Democrats, or the Diddycrats, I like to call them.
Yeah.
The Diddycrats, somehow 20,000 of them didn't vote this year. Is it because they were on the Diddy list? I doubt it. They were just banished, which goes to me that there was something really fishy going on in 2016 that the Diddycrats pulled off that time. Did they pull it off this time? Maybe there was too many of us to, say us. And, whatever. I'm not like really a side. I am for the side of truth and the side of love and the side of freedom and the side of protecting censorship, and I'm on the side of health. And so, I've always had this stuff with Trump, but also, who he's got on this team is, Elon and Robert.
Yeah.
And there's so much like weird stuff of people like, oh, Elon, blah, blah, blah. It's like his scalar waves are 450, and that is really high. It's almost 100% love. And he's been on a long time. So, can his technology get in the wrong hands? Sure. But also, have you ever met a single person with tisms that were evil?
No.
I've never met a single person with a tism that was an evil person. They are pure-hearted, usually. Literally, I would love for someone to tell me if they ever met one, because I haven't. I don't know if they're capable of being anything less than pure-hearted. No. And so, I know he was messed up with that ex-wife for a little bit, and she was a professed witch, and maybe he got like seduced into some weird stuff at the time, or out of love. But I saw a funny thing of his other ex, who, when they first met, I guess they were at like a hotel bar, and she said something like, they were talking, and he was like, hey, you want to go back to my room and we can look at rocket ship videos? And she was like, sure, thinking like more to it. And she's like, but sure enough, when we got there, we watched 2 hours of rocket ship videos, and that's all that happened. And I was just
so freaking funny.
He's literal. I mean, he's just obsessed with Mars. Every t-shirt he wears, Occupy Mars. And so yeah.
Some people believe that Mars, I mean, I've heard different things like Mars is fake, and that it's, and then some people say we are Mars, and then some people say, I mean, there's always, somebody's always saying something about something, and I'm like, where does it stop? Where we're just like, there's just so many opinions, and then facts and theories and all this different stuff. And then sometimes I get like, on that tangent where I'm like, I'll like look into it and I get really excited, and then I'll back off a little bit, like, I don't know, like Elon I've had my ups and downs with him. I've always wondered, is there something else going on that I don't know about, but yeah, he seems like he's on, I mean, the fact that, Trump isn't stupid, 45 isn't stupid. He knows what he's doing. So if he's going to have someone on his team, there's a reason for it. And I like the fact that things that Trump or that Elon has been saying has been really positive. And you mentioned the scalar waves, and I'm sure people are going to be watching this are going to be like, what the heck is a scalar wave? Like, how does that even work for people who don't know?
There's a map of consciousness that David Hawkins put out years ago in his Truth and Force book. And there are lots of people who test scalar waves. I'm not the only one. I do it through muscle testing, but there's other people who do it different ways. And that's, you can find out, even the timeline of his birth all the way to now. You could test people who have passed. But even like with reverse speech, because I don't just look at one thing and go, oh, that's it. I'll test and test and test and test, and I'll get third party testing, blind studies. And then also David Oates, who's got 40 years of, reverse speech. I'll go and I'll say, well, what is he saying? And then kind of go, okay, I'm right or wrong, or let's go back to the drawing board. I've yet to not align with different things that he has, and all his testing. If you watch my last show with David, he goes into Elon, RFK. Who else did he test? Because you saw it.
He did. Oh, he did. I missed the Elon one, but because I walked out to help Nevaeh. But yeah, there was Trump, there was Hillary, there was obviously Scamala, there was Biden. He did. I think you asked for Tulsi Gabbard. Some people were asking about Tulsi Gabbard, and they wanted to know about hers. I missed that one too, but I did hear you say
he didn't end up having it. He did have Nikki, what's her name, which her body language. I mean, I test body language too, and she's got terrible body language. Like, she's just, I don't think she's very good.
Well, the video, because some people always say, oh, you can reverse, everything, and you can make up whatever you want to make up or whatever when you hear, like, you can always hear what you want to hear. But I'll tell you what, the Hillary one and the Kamala one and the RFK one completely just like, because RFK said clear as day, I am the one. What is that? And then Kamala saying, she said because the wolf represents, David always says the wolf represents the person, right? Represents
the
her
purpose, the mission, the person.
Yeah, and she released the mother effing wolf to go to war. And it was when she was talking about Trump, how Trump wants to start war. And it was like, oh, that little And then Hillary, when she said what she said, I was like, turn that off. Turn that off. That woman is creepy. And what she said was, you guys should go watch the video, because that whole thing was pretty remarkable. And then you mentioned RFK on the scalar wave was how high?
900.
So he's higher than Trump.
1,000. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
and you know what's crazy too? He was 14 years addicted to heroin. Like, so his hero's journey, I mean, he was born really high. I choose to remember how high. It was pretty high. And then obviously he had a dip. Being on heroin is usually 25, 50, less 100 is addictions. And like, to bring yourself up to 900, I mean, just to come up from 100 to 200 is like, whoa. Anyone, like the average person is 200 or less. Like, I think it was like 57% of the world isn't even 200. Like, they're like 7% is above 250. I mean, it's, to be above 200 or 250 is like, and I probably have these off. Like, I'll have to look back on my stats. I don't have it all memorized, but I know it's a very small percentage of people that are over 250, and which is the wake up time, So it's and that's worldwide. That's not just the United States, which I really think this last season, and really in the last even 2 months, there's been way more disclosed since Jamie Foxx turned in Diddy to the feds and then went missing. Right. He went missing for like a year after being poisoned. And then Diddy's released. Candace Owens and like all these people start talking about it. Even Joe Rogan talked about it the night before the election. He was very open about talking about how all these people are on the Diddy list and backing her. And more is going to come out. And if you look into like some of the court docs, which I have been following, there's 8 videos out now were celebs who were extremely drugged and intoxicating, were doing things with other people that they have on tape for blackmail, and 3 of them were minors.
No.
Not 3 of the celebs, 3 of the victims of the essay were minors. And I mean, this is not like a secret. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is court docs. This is like for real. And then the videos of like Diddy's house, Oprah's house, Hugh Hefner's house, and then there's like this canal where ships come in, and then there's this whole area where all these like train cars are, because they bring in the shipment. It's a government area. They bring it in, and then they have it there, and there's tunnels all underneath there.
All underneath, yeah.
It's like, and there's 300,000 kids missing. What about that?
It's nuts, man. I remember when I first, actually, this is when I first saw you, was when, I mean, we won't go into that, but the person that you were doing the live with years ago. And I remember that's when like everyone was like waking up and starting to realize like who was like what was happening. And then like the whole Oprah thing happened, like when someone had filmed their house and the whole street, and you can clearly see that they're all connected. And then there was like construction, like a lot of it was blocked off, like they were doing stuff to her property. And so it's like a lot of things have been happening behind the scenes, and it's like I feel like it's just now it's like starting to open more and more and more, and now people are starting to see, and people are waking up to more and more about what's been happening with everything. Even sometimes watching TV is a little hard for me. Like I stick to the same TV shows because even though I wonder if they're part of it, because I just, but some of the things that they say, it's like, oh man, did they really just say that? Like they'll say things that just, it's like the code, like if you really look into it, the code about what their lingo is and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to sell and all that different stuff. So,
even not all of them in Hollywood are, because
right.
But even those in Hollywood, I think, had a hard time believing that some of it was real. I have a certain person that I talk to more than once a week who is very in the Hollywood scene. And
talking about Jim?
Who?
Jim Caviezel?
Oh no, I haven't talked to him in a couple years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think he would want me to say, because he.
Yeah, no, don't. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
But he at the beginning was kind of on the fence, like not on the fence, but he was not wanting to fully endorse anything, but because he's so pro-Israel, he was posting about that, and then the people would be just giving him hell. I mean, the comments were like, "Oh, you're obviously a Trumpster, and you like genocide," and people were like, "Unfollow, bye-bye, sorry, this person's name, and we used to like you." And well, anyway, I saw the comments, and I would take up for him, and we would go back and forth on that. And I would send him stuff, and he would we're constantly sending each other videos, and he couldn't post them. So he'd say, "Hey, will you post this?" And I'd be like, "That's a good one. Sure." And I'll post it. It's all on my Instagram. Well, I started sending him some stuff about Diddy and the connection with that. And he would never even respond. Like if I would send him other stuff, he would be like, "Yay, like it. Oh, cool. Oh my God. Yes, post that." But if it was anything with that, crickets. And I noticed after like 3 or 4 weeks that he was just crickets on the whole topic. And then one day, a couple of weeks ago, he started sending me stuff on it. Like he was getting it, like he was connecting the dots, and like he's there too. Cause I think now that Joe Rogan and Elon are talking about it, it's like, okay, well, that there must be something to this. But I showed him court documents. Like, I'm like, these are for real. Like, this is legit. And I guess it's probably hard to be in the scene, living in middle of LA, and to think that this is happening. I mean, it's a lot. It's a big pill to swallow.
And if it's the person I think you're talking about, then especially with working with the people, high up people that this person has worked with.
And the co-stars of the people,
Yes.
it's like
Yes. That must be
completely
really hard. It's like a hard pill to swallow. Like I eat lunch with those people, or I work with those people. Like what? And they didn't know.
Yeah, and I'll admit, like when I first heard about it,
Mm-hmm.
and or any of the stuff, trafficking and all that, it's just like, really, and I went to the Jim Caviezel opening premiere of that movie, and it's super like difficult to watch that movie. And I know they've had Sound of Freedom after that, which I haven't even watched because
I won't.
I don't know about it. I don't need to know about it anymore. I know what's happening. You don't have to convince me. And to watch it's just rough, so
yeah, it is.
I think the more that this stuff comes out and the more people are talking about it. I mean, that Jaguar lady and Ali Carter and
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about how kids were like on tables as, party favors, and food was all around them. They would eat off of them. Well, certain Lady Gaga and Katy Perry and all them, they were doing that openly at their stuff. But they would take, and the ones that she was talking about, the kids were taken and stuff was done to them, and they would put back on the table. Totally disgusting. And this was going on and on and on throughout the night, where, I think Ali had said like 20 some times that night or whatever. And she was 9 years old or 10 years old. And 30 something now. And she was dropping names in politics that were there, including like presidents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She got bashed so much when she was first coming out with all the different stuff, and my heart goes out to her because
now it's coming out as like the truth, and she's finally getting vindication that people are actually believing her. And she's been in hiding for how long now? 30 years, telling the same thing, going to court, doing all this stuff. And then, I mean, I just ask God to protect. I mean, I say God protect. I just hope she's protected. And that same with Jaguar lady. What's her name?
Yeah, Jaguar. She's Jaguar, right? They definitely have a heavy team of protection for sure. Spiritual team. They have that. I remember when I saw Kyle, I think her name is Kyle Richardson from the Housewives. I remember I saw a picture of her at one of those parties, and there was a person on the table covered in, BLOD. And I was like, that kind of, and then that was like when things started rolling for me.
It's a thing.
It's a total thing. I remember I called her out on Twitter at the time, and she kept on deleting my comments in the section, and then eventually she just blocked me. I wanted to know why.
Well, speaking of blocking, if you went to J-Lo and or Beyonce or Jay-Z stuff, and look at the comments,
people are bashing them.
People are bashing them. They get it. They're believing it. And then look at Ashton and his wife separated just mysteriously after this happened. And J-Lo and his wife just all of a sudden, and she is big time. Like, it's like she would, warn everybody about whatever, but she's not going to warn anyone about Diddy. It's like,
I know.
She's probably literally scared to be killed, because every person there was like 6 or 7 people who have tried to write books about the situation, and one was a documentary, and 4 were books, and every one of them have been poisoned or died of pneumonia or a coma or some kind of weird thing, including his ex, Kim Porter, and the father of his kids, 2 of his kids, I think. And they're just, because there's poisons that can make you get like pneumonia or cause phlegm, and like all of them just mysteriously died of pneumonia, and she was like 47 when she passed. It's like, but she had a book, and all of them have said, like, if something happens to me, I was not unalive. I was not unalived by myself. Like it wasn't me. And every one of them just gone.
It's so sad and scary. I don't like stuff like that.
I'm sure the hit list is pretty long of people.
Yeah. There was a question. I've had Annette. I know people have asked me. They're like, talk to her about this. Talk to her about that. And I was like, one of them was it's kind of off topic of the politics thing, but speaking in tongues. Remember when I asked you about this? I think it was last fall, actually. I think when you and I were talking about this, and we talked about it for a long time, and I was completely blown away. And I thought maybe someone might want to hear about it if they're interested in learning. Can you talk about speaking in tongues? Because I was always taught speaking in tongues was like the most powerful language you can possibly speak, and that the enemy can't touch you, and he doesn't know what language you're speaking, and how like it's when you're praying you should be doing that. And you were like, you sitting down when you were talking about it, and I was like, wait, what? So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So if you look at any of David's work, he's been doing testing on that with so many, hundreds of cases, maybe thousands, whether it's light language or tongues, doesn't matter, whatever you call it. All of it comes back with satanic words subconsciously. So it could, it could be channeling, or it could be that the person is saying that because they subconsciously think that or feel that on a deep down level. Or it could be, like I said, channeling some sort of frequency, but that frequency is a very low, like 25 or lower, or 50 or lower, which is manipulation, control on it. But he actually, it's mostly satanic things that come out.
Even if you have a good intentions, like even if your intention is to like pure light kind of a thing, like, Holy Spirit type of stuff, like that.
He's never found one, even in the most positive people that he's tested. When they do that, it comes back satanic.
What about when those I've heard this
say that word on YouTube. I hope that's not like a bad thing.
I hope not.
Anyway, we'll see.
Well, what about like, because I've heard there's a test. There's I don't know if it was the CIA or someone. There's like a test you can find online where they did a study where people who were speaking in tongues or praying, they were showing like the scan of their brain and how like parts of their brain was still active, but then that one part, when the people that were speaking in tongues, everything was shut down except for this one part of their brain, and they were saying that it was like the most powerful thing or whatever. And so that's what always stuck with me, thinking like
it could be powerful, but maybe not the right power that you want to channel.
Interesting. When people are going to hear that, and people are going to have questions. They're going to be like,
don't believe me. Go look and listen to his work. Like it's pretty clear. Like there's no way to doubt, like when you hear it yourself. Like, look, I came from 20 some years of being in ministry, and I still consider myself in ministry, but to me, ministry is just service to the world. So it's not attached to any religion or even really different belief system. I'm more of I just believe in God and source power inside and outside, and that we have great technology. And I do believe in the cloud of witnesses. I do believe in messengers or angels or aliens, whatever they are. I choose to know. But
it's a wide variety, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you go back and listen, just saying, I went to Bible school and seminary, and that
not only that, you traveled with like people like Bill Johnson, Benny Johnson, Chris Valentin, all the people that I knew about. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
was literally at TBN with Bill once. I was with we went and saw Oral Roberts together
mhm,
twice. He was on my show. Benny was on my show. Like, we did several conferences together, and I mean, he was with me when Bob passed. Like, we went to, like, there was his memorial service, and then
mhm,
there was like his funeral, and then there was the actual barrier, and a barrier part was like invite only.
mhm,
And of course he was there. He was really tight with Bob, and Bob was really tight with him. I mean, there's a big part of, so I mean, in a way, we were all the people who were kind of mentored by him. We kind of saw each other as like sisters and brothers of the dad kind of
mhm,
thing. Todd
mhm,
Bentley and all of those guys. I look at them as like brothers and sisters, and they spoke in tongues, but I mean, I love them anyway. I love all of them anyway.
mhm.
The whole falling down thing too, like, I never did that. I just couldn't. I
I can
wanted
never do that.
I was like, oh, maybe this is the night, and I would think every time would be the night, and like, it never happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, zero. And I asked Bob, like, what is wrong with me? And he said, someone's got to be standing. Usually the leaders are still standing. And I was just like, oh, and I felt a lot better, because I was like, okay, I like being a leader. If you're saying I'm a
Mhm,
leader, I'm good with that. Like, you're Bob. So
mhm. Yeah, I've never been the one to fall down. In fact, I remember growing up, pastors would like purposely push,
push. Yeah.
and I would, oh,
That's what
knowing
pissed me
me, I would
off.
be like, mm-mm, like you ain't gonna push me, and I would
Or the
resist.
push pull. Like,
Yeah.
I've had that happen where there's a catcher behind
Oh
you,
yeah.
and then
So like
someone
trying to
will push,
get you
and
to
the
go
other
down.
person's pulling you, and you're just like, dude, I'm on the ground, and you really pissed me off. Now
Yeah.
at this point, it's like, do you have to do that to be so fake?
Yeah.
That, and look, I'm not saying that the church is fake. I'm not saying that
Yeah,
people
I
in the
know.
church are
Yeah.
fake. I'm saying that just like every place in the world, there's good and bad people in
Yeah.
every organization of all things. And
Mhm.
some of them are really pure motivated and do good things and are pure hearted. And then others are just completely in it for the money. Well, Bob would call it the girls, the glory, the girls and the guys, the glory, and the gold.
Mhm.
So it's like, some people just want it for the money. Some people want it for the women and the men, and some people want it for the ego, or the public
Mhm.
persona, or just like the attention. And then some people are actually just like purely, absolutely love humans and
Mhm.
consciousness and want them to be in a better light and a better place.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. There's yeah, the spiritual, the church, that's a whole other conversation. And it's like I don't want to talk crap about people or anything. That's just like I feel like a lot of people have been, maybe the word is, I don't know if the word is hurt or just I don't know what the word is. What do you think the word is? It's
Traumatized.
yeah, traumatized. And then getting those sozos done. I used to get those sozos done back in the day, and now I'm like, I want to get I want to get a freaking bioscan. I want to get I want to do the trauma oils and do the wand and stuff like that, which I'm sure people don't know yet. And also, I was gonna ask you about your cards. You know those the deck of cards you have, and I see them behind you. Yeah. So okay, so here's the thing. Try introducing people to it, and people feel like it's people who grow up in the church are a little hesitant towards it because they think it's tarot cards.
What if it is?
Can you talk? Can you talk? Talk about it? Because like yeah, you want to talk about it that way. People who are, I want people to be educated because I feel like I kind of don't explain it very well to people.
Everything submits to source. So John Paul would say even fortune cookies are like when you get to a certain level of consciousness, John Paul would say, when you get to a certain level of consciousness, everything submits to God.
Hmm.
And I just interchange source, but we only get what we are, good and bad, by
Hmm.
default and or by using conscious design of like creating something as an architect on a positive thing. You know, we can be powerful architects for our life and our pathway. And the magnet of our heart pulls in what's in the field, and everything else projects and radiates all the way down to the cells, the organs, what we think about, what we talk about. And I mean, there's a little bit of magnet with the other stuff, but this is the biggest magnet. And when I worked in cardiac rehab, we actually saw the blue light in surgery, and the surgeons would talk about, did you see that? You know, and there would be like this little spark of blue, which I think is fascinating. And at the time, I was not going, oh yeah, the law of attraction, that's what it is. I was like totally just kind of shelved that one. I'm like, that's interesting, you know. And then later when I was learning about all this, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. But going back to this, I made them as flashcards because I was a big flashcard kid. That's how I learned my multiplication tables.
So did I.
It was a bit traumatizing still.
I didn't like it. I felt pressure.
Oh my God. I cannot even with my dad. And he was, because I just mathematically, I found out later I have, like, when I was born, the forceps like pulled me out because I was breech, and like literally caused some problems in the area of time, space, and like math. So they call it dyscalculia. It's like a different type of what is the other one? It's not dyscalculia.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, it's like that, but it's a different part of the brain. But so I had created them in cards instead of a book. So if it was a book, they wouldn't think it's tarot. It's just because it's on a card.
It's in the cards, yeah.
Okay. Interesting perspective. So yeah, I mean, it just says like what each thing is. Like this is tiger's eye, and then it'll say like what tiger's eye does on a physical, mental, spiritual, energy level. And then it has a decree, which is energetically matched to the crystal to do the same thing. And then the companion oils that are on that same frequency as well. So when someone works with this crystal on that frequency range, then they can also use the oils and the decree to do like a 3-chord power punch for the whole thing. I made it cards instead of a book because accidentally, on purpose, I mean, whatever the synchronicities are, I was working with Dr. Lucky, and one day he was testing me for like I was deficient in D, and it showed that I was weak in D, the vitamin.
Holy fuck. Clarify.
To be clear. And so he kept, you know, so he went and got a bottle and put it in my field to see if I would strengthen, and I got worse. And he was like, what? And, you know, clearly took it away, and I was weak, needing that specific thing, and then he put it in and made it worse. So he was like, well, is it the bottle? Is it the color? Is it the label? And it said that it was the label. So he went through on each word on the label, and it came up with Ecuador. And Ecuador, I went really weak and in the past. And I had like a situation where I was hospitalized in Ecuador for black mold, and I had to be there for 3 weeks, and I had already been gone to Ireland for 2 weeks. So that was a long time. That's the longest time I've ever been without my kids. It was a foreign country there. I didn't speak the language. It was just overwhelming. And they told me if you go back home, they're going to want to do chemo. And I wasn't wanting to do that. And they did thieves in my veins 3 days. And then they did frankincense the 4th day. And it cleared it all. Anyway, but it was just like, it was, thank God for it. And also it was extremely detoxing to go through that. Like, even if I was at home doing that, it was very, very difficult, the detox of that. But somehow I had associated a lot of things with that country, and it caused me to go weak. So we cleared it. And then I was able to, anyway, all that being said, I was in the middle of doing the book,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, if just one little word can be such a significant thing on a whole bottle, like what other things am I,
Yeah,
being
for real.
putting myself into
Mm-hmm.
all the time that I'm not even realizing that this is affecting us. There
Mm-hmm.
could be things that you are around, like labels on a shirt or something in a book you pick up or sleep next to you or something on your, cup or, there's words everywhere. So like
Right.
what could be giving us those signals and what could be, but on the other hand, in the positive, I was like, well, if I put all of these on a card, then instead of a whole book, then someone can take this card and the energy of it, bring it to the field, which we tested. If we put the crystal in the field, it would clear and or hold strength in the field and beefing up the field. And if we took away the crystal and then gave the picture of the card, it did the exact same thing, that the image and or the words created that same strength in the field that the actual crystal did. And it's a lot lighter. So taking a whole card deck with you on a trip or even down the road to your friend's house instead of 98 crystals that, weigh 500 pounds or whatever.
Real.
So
No,
that's
seriously.
why I did it. I wasn't trying to be a tarot reader, although whatever you pick is going to be what you require for your field 100% of the time. And
Mm-hmm.
usually people who don't even believe it, who are just like those people that you were talking about, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, let's do it. And then they'll take it, then they read the back and they go, oh my God, how did you know? And I'm like, I didn't. Your body does.
Yeah.
You will pick it based on either visually, or some people do the whole like whatever and they pick it. And it's the same thing with tarot. That's
Mm-hmm.
whether obviously people have their own beliefs about it, but everything will submit to you and or to God. And so,
So how does it get tested? Because like you mentioned, like I have the sage one on the card. I always like to have the sage one nearby. It's kind of getting bent because Nevaeh plays with it so much. But I was like, how do I have to charge it? Like I was like, do I sage it to like recharge it? How does that work? Did you
don't
just put
have
like
to
the
charge it, don't have to clear it.
It's just
That's
always working. Like
yeah.
it's always
Actual crystals involve a lot of work of clearing because they record. This image doesn't record. I mean, I'm sure there's memory to it,
that's
but
interesting.
not recording. Like the crystal is highly recordingable, and that's why they use it in watches and medical gear and phones. And those people who are like, oh my God, crystals, oh my God, it's like you're using it every day.
Because it's in the
Every day.
TVs,
It's in
right?
all the things that you use every day.
Yeah.
Your computer, your car. Like
Right.
highly, which by the way, North Carolina is one of the highest areas of quartz crystal.
I knew there was a reason
Where
why I
they got
wanted to live
hit
there.
with that, you know what?
There was a reason why I wanted to live there. Yeah. Yeah, I heard that there's a big mountain, like just a ginormous amount of it. And I'm like, what? I mean, what do they need to clear? They don't need, it's too late for them. They can't clear themselves out. But yeah, I have, so I'm guessing like all my stones and crystals that I have, even my bracelets, I don't have them separated. I have them all just like piled up on top of it. Probably not a good idea, is it? I'm probably like pulling up all kinds of things. I don't really sage them. Can I just put the card and the sage and put them in there and then it'll clear it? Or
Cards won't clear, but you could just put it over actual sage or a diffuser with oils or put it out in the sunlight. You could put it in a grounding thing of sand or salt. There's lots of ways to clear. I have a
so
whole class on like crystals in the Bible that goes into like all these kind of things that we have made up over the years and like debunking all of that and going into the actual science, because I was that person. I believe, oh my God, this is like terrifying that I would use this. And then all of a sudden I started looking at the data and I'm a data geek. I love actual data. And over and over and over and over, I was seeing that if there was chaos in the field and anything of a crystal was introduced to the field, it completely diminished the chaos. and strengthen the person.
What do you mean by the field? Like, what does that look like for someone who doesn't know?
Biofield. Everyone has an aura, biofield, electronic belt.
Mm-hmm.
What else do people call it?
So it's just like this thing that kind of flows around us at all times.
Every living thing has that belt, and some people have like an inch, some people have 40 inches, some people have 20 feet. You know, the higher the consciousness, the more influence you have.
Mm-hmm. Wait, does that show up on my scan? When you do my scan for me, does that show up?
How big your field is?
Yeah.
No, not on the biofeedback, but on my soul audits, I will test how big the width is and how big, you know, the circumference or the radius is.
Girl, we need to be working on my soul audit.
And then I do like where you are in consciousness. I do if there's a male and female energies, like if they're balanced or not. And I do the chakras and see which ones may be off. And then I also do the 5 most areas that need support, you know, according to abundance, you know, finances, and or different things that could be in the field through the DNA, like programs of ancestral stuff, or just something that happened to you or something that you are part of on purpose.
Ancestral stuff. So you're telling me that you could pull up things from like my mom's side, including my dad's. Like, I don't know anything on my dad's side. So I'm curious because I always, there's something.
Yeah, well, because I was always wondering, like, if I was doing all the things, you know, with integrity, like, how was I getting some things, whether it was abundance or whatever, that weren't working in my best? It's like, why am I seeing this pattern? And then I started seeing, like, I would test and it would be like, oh, something on my grandfather's side, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and we could clear that. And because they all are in my DNA and that DNA has a code. So if there's like a negative, then you could have a positive of what you think and what you feel. But if those negatives, like I have a whole chart on this in my book, I talk about this. Let me see if I could.
Like, that's another thing I got to talk to you about is your book.
Yeah, pluses and minuses, and that could get you in energetic purgatory, where you're just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it's like, why am I not getting any movement here? You know,
girl, that's my whole life.
Or you can have, and so it's like, well, maybe there's something going on energetically that maybe great grandma wanted to do something with a job or something, and then she just couldn't get there, and so had the feeling of I'll never make it or whatever, cancel clear. And then that's somehow lodged in there where it's like you're like excited, but and you think you can, but someone back there didn't. No blame, or you know, or maybe they had a fear of like, oh, every time I do this it doesn't work. And then that could be somehow programmed that when you're trying to do something positive, it doesn't work. Yes. So Brittany's on here. She's saying cellular memory, ancestral imprints. Yep. All in the field. And so if we can get those literal equations cleared out of the field, then we only have positive, then we're going to start attracting positive things of abundance, positive people who could bring opportunity for a job or multiple jobs or free stuff or, you know, whatever the situation is, new relationships that are positive instead of those that suck the hell out of you or whatever, you know, or give you hell, cancel clear. So a person, not you.
No, I know, I hear you, because I know you and I have been working, you've been working with me for a long time on my health. So it's like, I feel like it's still that pull back, you know, that pull and tug kind of a thing. And so I'm wondering if that's why my mom is here now, why she's been brought here into.
Yeah. And you mentioned that she's doing keto.
Yeah, she's doing keto. I gave her your book. I was like, Mom, I said, you got to read this book. I even gave her your Science and Miracles book. That's another one we're going to have to gotta ease her into that one. But yeah, no, I gave her your keto book, and she she read parts of it and then she just went for it. And she's been doing like really good. She's not sticking to like, the 15 carbs thing. Yeah, that's the one. And but she's still doing it. And she noticed, she's like, my toes. I noticed I don't have pain in my toes. Or she was saying the other day that she feels like she's not in a daze anymore. And I was like, what does that even feel like to be like? I'm probably in a daze. I don't even know it. But she says she feels better. She's happier. And then I even asked her this morning, I said, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? Like, how that willpower that she just has, because I know her and she used to, not anymore, but she was the kind of person who used to like give in and just like back off and then eat the way she wanted to eat. But now she's like, I've watched her and it's inspiring. She just says no. Like she chooses to just, it's like a whole shift in her mindset, and it's really inspiring. And but yeah, I gave her that keto book and it just changed her. Just
I'm so happy to hear that.
So now I'm like, I've heard this the carnivore life. What do you think about that?
I love it. I think it's great. And I think even though I didn't know carnivore until I went to Reno, I just did my certification for ozone therapy and prozolone therapy. And there were about 100 doctors there, surgeons, ER doctors, literally from all over the world in the country. And I would say 95% of them were carnivore. And I was like, what? Because we would go to dinner and lunch with, like 10 people at a time, or 12 people here, or 3 people there, or whatever. And like the menu was like steak out like every meal, or chicken or fish or whatever. And I was like, are you doing it too? Are you doing it too? Are you doing it too? I was like, really? So yeah. And wow. And then I would see that they were adding like butter, sour cream. They were having whole milk, like whipping cream in their coffee and stuff. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that on carnivore. Or cheese, hard cheese on their cheeseburger. They would just get the patty with the cheese. And I was just like, well, you know what? I think when I was keto, I didn't do a whole, I may have been more carnivore, really, because I didn't do a whole lot of vegetables, because most of
I wondered. I was curious about that. Because when I was new to the whole keto thing, I remember talking to you and I was like, this is like when we first started getting to know each other before we became friends. And I always like confused. I was like, she doesn't eat a lot of vegetables? I was like, she doesn't.
Most of the vegetables have sugar and carbs. So like carrots and potatoes and
it's crazy.
Like, yeah, I will do onions and like green peppers, red pepper. The darker the pepper, the more vitamin C is in it. And I would just do peppers with like maybe a little bit of ranch, or just eat it plain, or some guac or something. But like the majority of my time on keto was probably more carnivore, and I didn't know I was carnivore because I just didn't know that that was included in carnivore. But I'm back on keto. I went no November. I started early. I call it no. I just made it up. No November. No, because people are like, "What is that?" I'm like, I just made it up. But I'm sure somebody said it about something else, but I made it up for what I wanted to, which for me was giving up carbs again and giving up alcohol, which I'm not a big alcoholic, but I will have a glass of wine with food. And what I found out is if I would drink wine, I would usually eat more food. And plus there's sugar. And I know I was dealing with candida or still am cancel clear. So I was like, well, if I'm really, it would always kick me out of ketosis when I would drink. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do keto, I'm going to have to get rid of this thing too, because it would make me want to snack. I want to eat some chips or something terrible that isn't like serving me, or macaroni and cheese or pizza or something, some Italian food with wine. I mean, it just goes. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do the whole thing. And I was going to start November 1st, All Saints Day, and my ordination day, and my dad's birthday. But I was on the retreat, and there were more people on carnivore, and there were other people there who hadn't drank in years. And then Bianca, who I keep interviewing, I kept seeing her posting about quitting, I think 2 years ago. And I was like, well, why am I waiting till November? Like, just start. So I think I started the 27th or the 28th. I have to go look. But I think I'm on like day 10 or 11, depending on what day it is. But no alcohol, no carbs. I'm doing like 15 or less. I've already dropped 10 pounds. I'm also exercising every single day. Because have you ever heard of hard 75 or 75?
Yeah.
So one of the girls at the retreat is doing that. And I've done it multiple times. But it requires 45 minutes twice a day. One of the 45 minutes has to be outside.
Whew.
I know. And then you have to read 10 pages of some kind of
book.
Yeah. And then you drink a gallon of water a day. And then you pick a diet, any kind of diet. I think that's all the things. Anyway, is there something else? It's like exercise, diet, reading.
No, I think you gotta drink a lot of water and the diet, the lifestyle.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm kind of doing that, except for I don't like the terminology 75 hard. I'm doing like 75 easy.
75 hard.
I'm doing 75 easy, and mine is I read every day anyway. I'm always reading like 5 books. I'm not quite there on a gallon of water, and I'm not doing 45 minutes twice. I'm doing 45 minutes once, and it could be inside or outside. And why it's easy too, going back to your mom, is after 4 days of being in ketosis, the ghrelin levels are like suppressed, and you're not hungry. Like I'm fasting. My fasting window right now is like 16 to 18 hours. Like I'll eat one meal. I forget that I need to eat. I'm kind of like that anyway. I usually was doing like a 16-hour intermittent fasting thing. Even when I was drinking, I would just do like, dinner pretty much. And then I would usually have a glass of wine and then maybe a glass before bed. But then that would always make me want to eat like weird shit all the way to like 10 o'clock at night. And I would just like totally get out of ketosis. And then I'd be like, why did I do that? And then, because the frontal lobe would just be like, bye. Once I would have a glass of wine, I'm not a very tolerant person of alcohol. So like 1 glass or 2, I was like, frontal lobe decision making was like, see ya, go eat some cookies, or go eat all that macaroni that your husband made. It was like, okay, I gotta stop, because then I have more willpower. But like your mom was saying, once you get in ketosis and you feel so amazing and you have that cognitive just it's easy to stay. And by the way, anyone who wants to do No November with me, you don't have to pick alcohol or carbs. I have a whole group of people giving up whatever they want. And that group, I have a keto group too, that if you guys are interested in just having some accountability for keto, there's like recipes in there and different things. You should join me if you want.
I know. I don't know what
Mom's doing it. Why don't you do it?
I don't know what I'm afraid of. I don't know what it is. It's like I do really well, and then all of a sudden I'm back at it again. I cancel clear that shit. My God. I don't know. I need to. I choose
What's
to.
The block?
What?
What's the block?
I don't know.
It's okay.
You need to scan me and find out. Awesome. That's the answer to all my problems. Just scan me so I can find out what's really going on. I saw that Brittany earlier. I meant to say something because she mentioned about it's kind of off topic, but she was talking about a fun topic would be ancient seer stones. I don't know what that is. Is that?
Yeah, I don't choose to know. I'll ask her.
Ancient seer stones, because that.
I know there were stones that people would go to that had maybe genetic memory, or different people that had a higher consciousness maybe held the stones, and I'm sure the stones recorded. And
well, that's like Stargate type of stuff, right?
Yeah, they all have memory.
That's a whole conversation I would like to have. My brother. Let's talk about Stargate.
We're gonna do this again.
Yes. We are going to do this again because there's still more topics to discuss. And like she even mentions, you can muscle test your field or use dowsing rods to measure your distance.
Cellular memories, ancestral, energetic imprints. Yes, get it. We all have our own signature code, and I talk about that in my book too. And I also talk about how you can frequency hop. I have to find it, but there's a whole code that I got from those two beings that came to me that gave me these like.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. We'll have to do that next time because that is going to be a super fun topic.
This page, yes. Like I got this in my download, and then the whole book came out of that meeting. So that's interesting. But
you want to talk about next time, like angelic type of beings and stuff like that, and things that I've seen that I've been like curious about, and then like
what did yours look like?
Well, one time I was in bed, and it looked like there was like a universe inside of his body, and I'm here in my room, right here in front of the bed, and Steven was, asleep. And I remember I jumped on Steven and I said, "Don't look." And he goes, "What? And I said, "Cover your eyes." Because I said, there's someone in here. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "There's some sort of angel or something in here. I don't know what it is yet. And it's really tall and it has like a universe in it." And I said, I don't know why I jumped on him. Like, I was just like, "Don't look." It was like a hyper moment. And then this one is always right here. There's always one right here behind me. And this particular wall, it's a big one. And he's been there for a very long time. And I still don't know what his purpose is, but he's been there. He or she, it, don't know. I always get like a he type of vibe from him. But anyway, yeah, we should talk about stuff like that next time, or whatever people want to talk about. That ancient seer stone one sounds really interesting. So,
yeah, and anybody who's watching this, if you guys have questions and or topics that you're interested, this is like totally open forum. We were like, let's talk about anything and everything, because we could just jump all over about all the things here. So I'm open, or I know Charlene is open to what you guys want to talk about. And
yeah, I'm always pulling Charnel's brain. I'm always like calling her and asking her questions. And so I think we should have like a raw, what the puck kind of moment conversation. Like we always do. So yeah, if people have things they want to ask or question or talk about, I mean, that'd be super great, because then we can keep this going. And so yeah, awesome. I'm so glad that we got to do this.
Yay. Tell your mom hey.
I will.
Thank you for inspiring me to do this, and thank you for being you and for all your support and help. She does all my editing, by the way. She's my editor. And amazing technology person. Way above my pay scale of like not. She does all the shorts and all the editing. She's just amazing. She's a very talented woman. So I'm very happy that she came into my life. And
yes,
yeah, you guys check out her TikTok and all her stuff. She's got some cute stuff.
I do family stuff now. I used to do those, all those conspiracies, and I kept on getting knocked off. TikTok doesn't.
They don't like my stuff either.
They don't like any of it. So I just was like, I'm just going to share family stuff, because I just don't know what else to talk about. But now I'm even getting inspired to do like a keto thing. Like if,
ooh,
I choose to do this with you and do like a whole journey of like my health, because
do it.
One of my biggest things is I had this moment with Nevaeh. See, and I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. But I wanted to take her to Disneyland. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to go on any of the rides with her. And I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be that mom. And so I was like, what if I did a journey where I worked my freaking ass off? And I did this keto thing that you have, and give it a year and see what happens of it. And what if I get to go to Disneyland, or choose to go to Disney? I could make that happen. This whole manifestation thing, like, I don't know what your belief is on that, but I'll tell you, I wrote down years ago that I was going to be working for you, and here I am working for you. And then I wrote down that I was going to be doing lives with you, and here I am 3 years later.
Look at you manifesting.
I know. Steven goes, you realize what's happening, right? And I go, yeah, I just don't know how to process it. And he goes, you wrote that down 3 years ago. He's like, it legit just happened. And I was like, yeah, and it came out of nowhere. And the next is going to be.
It came out of nowhere. It came out of you.
Yeah. And then that's
Your
true.
heart.
It came out because my heart is so for you. And I love you so much. I want to learn like how you do things. Like I want to learn from you and like work with stuff. Like I want to meet Dr. Lucky. There's so many things. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
Awesome.
Well, I love you.
Love you.
And
thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
Send us your questions. Send us your topics, and we're gonna do this again maybe in a few weeks if you're up for it. Whenever you're up for it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right.
I love you. Bye.